When Intel launched the Pentium 4 processor at the end of the year 2000, it was a huge deal. To put this into context, we had just broken the 1 GHz barrier not that long prior, with both the Pentium 3 and AMD's Athlon coming out with 1 GHz parts. And here we were with 1.5 GHz from the launch model of the Pentium 4. And Intel was even promising that the Netburst architecture powering the Pentium 4 would be able to scale all the way to 10 GHz before they were done with it. Now, obviously, that never happened, and the fastest consumer part that ever came out was 3.8 GHz. A 4 GHz model of the Pentium 4 was kind of tested, but it was never actually released to retail, and that 3.8 GHz model came out as the 90 nanometer Prescott. This was a die shrink all the way down from the launch models, which were 180 nanometers with Willamette. But they weren't done with refining Netburst with the Prescott. Now, if you watched my video previously about the IBM Think Center, where I tried a whole bunch of processors in that machine, it originally came with a Prescott-based Pentium 4 chip. And this one in particular, I had tried and thought that it might work. This is a Pentium 4 Model 631. It's a Cedar Mill architecture. Cedar Mill is the code name for the 65 nanometer die shrink of the Pentium 4 Netburst architecture. This is the smallest manufacturing node that Netburst ever saw. And I have a motherboard here that supports it from Gigabyte. This is Gigabyte's GA-965P-DS3. Previously, I had thought I had a 945 chipset motherboard. It turns out it's actually 965. But I'm interested to see how far that CPU is able to scale. Because not only is this particular Pentium 4 a Cedar Mill revision, it's the final S spec that was ever released. The manufacturing date on this thing is from 2007. To put that in perspective, Core 2 Duos had been out for a year when this was manufactured. That's absolutely wild. So we're going to install that Pentium 4 Cedar Mill onto this motherboard, and then I'm just going to casually see how far it can overclock. Let's see how far Intel really refined Netburst before they were done. Now, being that this is kind of a casual, laid-back, just I'm going to see how far it goes type of thing, I don't have anything that's extreme in my setup. It's a Gigabyte board that only has a single 4-pin for the CPU power. The voltage and regulation stuff has no heatsink or cooling on it. And this is just a 965 chipset. It's not anything super fancy. The cooler that we're going to use is actually just the copper core Intel stock cooler. But we're going to put it on. We're going to see how it works. The memory that we're going to use, this board takes DDR2, so I have 2 sticks here of G.Skill DDR2 800. And then for video output, I just have an EVGA 8600 GT. And we're just using that because it's from within about a year or two of when this CPU was made. All right, processor's in. I'm going to get some RAM installed. This is CL5 rated. We'll get our cooler put on with a little bit of thermal paste. And again, I'm not going absolutely crazy here. We're just going to see what it can do. Let's get our cooler mounted. I think that it goes this way. I can never remember with these push pins which direction they're supposed to actually be sitting when you go to push it down onto the board. But that seems to be correct. Well, we're all clicked in. Power is connected for the fan. We're going to get our EVGA 8600 GT. This card wasn't received very well when it was new, just because it was kind of meddling performance for the pricing that they were asking. And let me remove my CMOS clear jumper, which I had on there for a while just to make sure our settings were completely cleared. And then I've got this 500 watt server grade power supply I'm going to be hooking up to get power. I'm going to make all of the connections for power, monitor, and keyboard, and then we're going to see what we can do. Okay, we've got all of our connections made here. I just need to flip the power supply on. Let's make sure I'm doing this. And then we'll just start her up. And let's start pressing delete in order to reach our BIOS. PC health status, let's make sure we're doing okay. Yeah, temperature on the CPU is staying in the mid-20s Celsius, which is kind of to be expected. I mean, this is back down to 22. This is the most efficient out of anything. One thing we're going to do here, though, is I want to see if there's an option. Full screen logo. We're going to disable this. PCI Express graphics first. And I want to, for like startup, is there like a fast boot to disable? I'm curious. Okay, so we can adjust our CPU clock ratio. I don't know if that actually works. We're going to lower our system's RAM multiplier because I want to be able to increase the bus speed without negatively affecting the stability of the RAM itself. So let's enable. Okay, so the default here, I think, is 200. Yeah. So we actually want to increase from 200. Let's try 250. I feel like... And CPU voltage... I wonder what the actual maximum is on these chips. It doesn't even show what the normal CPU V-core is. And it just says V-core is okay. It doesn't actually read out. Well, yeah, let's try 250 to begin with. And actually, I wonder at 266 if it resets the PCI Express speed back down. Let's give it a try. Because this is supposed to be capable And there we're at 4 gigahertz. That was the easiest 33% overclock I think I've ever done. System voltage not optimized. Normal CPU V-core is 1.3125. So we're going to push that a little bit here. I want to push that to 1.4. We're going to restart back up and get back into our BIOS here. Yeah. We'll have to lower in order to go for 300, which is the next amount that I want to try. That's 4.5 gigahertz. I doubt this will work, but we're going to try it. No freaking way. 4.5 gigahertz? Well, yeah, we don't have a boot device. Disk boot failure. Yeah, let me Control-Alt-Delete. Oh, I don't think it's letting me Control-Alt-Delete. We might not have... We might have just crashed there. Oh, that's funny. Let's hit the reset. Wow. But even seeing it post at 4.5 gigahertz is just insane to me. Let's go for 333. I'm going to have to lower the memory multiplier here a bit. But we're going to try for 5 gigahertz. I don't know whether to think it'll work or not, but... Yeah, that did not work. 5 is a bit much, huh? Yeah. But this just kind of is an exercise in finding out how good was Netburst when they stopped making it. I was very interested to know, because when the 4 gigahertz Extreme Edition was supposed to come out, they were still on 90 nanometers. And Intel, from what I understand, Intel kind of had 2 camps going on at that time. There were the engineers who wanted to continue pushing Netburst as far as it would go. And then you had the other engineers who wanted to fall back onto the P6 architecture, which powered the Pentium Pro, Pentium 2, and Pentium 3. And those chips wound up getting reworked and made into what became Core 2 Duo, believe it or not. You know, I'm not going to try for that again. I'm going to keep this at 4 gigahertz. And but yeah, like how easy it was just now to get that to work at 4 gigahertz. I'm baffled by that. And I'm curious with a little bit nicer board. Okay, so we're on BIOS F14. I might wind up checking for updates on that while I'm here, because I have it set up. I might as well try. But yeah, it's just... $10 gigahertz probably was never going to be possible with the Netburst architecture. Let's be completely real about that. But had Intel decided to continue with Netburst, 4 gigahertz was easily in the cards for them, especially with the 65 nanometer die shrink. And I mean, an Extreme Edition running at 5 gigahertz is not out of the question. That totally could have been a thing with some of the higher bin parts, because, again, just to be clear here, this is a Pentium 4 631. This is a 3 gigahertz part, and that's one of the lower tiers. They actually made these things all the way up to 3.6 or 3.8, and so this is a lower bin, and this is capable of 4 gigahertz just by pressing a button. And in fact, if you remember, I hadn't changed the CPU voltage until we were trying to go above 4 gigahertz. So even at the 1.3125 that's default on this particular example, 4 gigahertz, no problem. You know, you might have needed a little bit more in order to load Windows and get it to stay stable, but this is on a standard 965p motherboard that doesn't have that great of voltage delivery, and it works, which is insane to me. 4 gigahertz just by pressing a button. Insane. Well, thank you guys for hanging out with me tonight for this quick little test. If you like watching somebody mess with old hardware, talk about it, test it, and clean it, and all of that good stuff, then you're in the right place. I appreciate you being here to watch all the way to the end if you have, and I hope to see you again in the next one. Take care.